Hi, my name is Morna Antillon. Today, I will be talking about racism. Considering that I myself am from a minority group in this country, I believe it is important to share some light on this topic. This presentation is for my IDS 400 class on diversity here at Southern New Hampshire University as part of my final project. We live in a world influenced by what certain groups feel is normal and unnormal. Things such as our color of skin, religion, gender identity, and sexual orientation, to say a few. A world where social practice has shaped the way people view others that do not look, like, or share their same interests. But what is social practice? The best way to describe social practice is to think of certain things that our societies thinks are right, and it becomes a norm for others to follow those same behaviors or beliefs, when truly no one is 100% sure what is right in this world. Depending on the way one is raised has a lot to do with the way our beliefs are shaped in our future. This brings me to the term race. People have let others put a label on them only because of the way they look, like, for example, their color of skin, when in reality, that is the only difference between human beings, the way we look, because biologically, we are all the same, at least 99.9% the same. From an article in PBS, race has no genetic basis. Not one characteristic or trait or even gene distinguishes all the members of one so-called race from all the members of another so-called race. So you see, the term race is just a label to try to differentiate one another from people that do not look like us. The truth is, we are more alike than we think. Yet, people are still not treated equally. Women do not get paid the same as men do, and even so, women of a minority group still get paid less than those white women. Individuals from the gay and lesbian communities do not have the same rights as normal couples do, for example, the right to get married. Minority groups overall struggle day by day by others profiling them as not being equal. Identity politics have all those individuals that almost feel as they are not as important as other groups. Identity politics are groups or organizations that come together to fight for a specific cause. Groups such as the LGBT movement, the feminism movement, and the Black Lives Matter movement. Each and every one of these individuals that are part of any one of these movements believes in something. This is to treat everyone equally because everyone deserves that. And even though we all deserve to be treated equally, we do not get treated equally. For example, police brutality is one of the biggest issues that our nation faces day by day. Day by day, there are a lot of police brutality victims, all because of racial profiling done by police officers. Innocent people are getting brutally beat or even killed by police simply because of their color of skin or physical appearance. Sean Bell, Robert Davis, and Robert Mitchell are a few of those many police brutality victims in our nation. Police brutality victims in our nation is a big issue. The story of Sean Bell is pretty sad. He was killed by detectives from the New York Police Department. They shot a car in which Sean and his friends were riding 50 times in November of 2016. Robert Davis was a retired school teacher from the city of New Orleans. Davis was arrested and brutally beat by police on the suspicion of public intoxication in the year of 2005. The officers that participated in the beating were either fired or suspended, yet many of those charges against them were cleared. Robert Mitchell was only 16 years old when he was killed by police in Detroit. The police said that Mitchell was resisting arrest after a traffic stop. They shot Mitchell with the taser gun that sent 50,000 volts of electricity into him. Police brutality has to stop, as well as racial profiling. Race is simply a term that at the end of the day leads to diversity, oppression, and racism. Oppression has had a big impact in modern society. A lot of groups that fall into the categories of oppression keep finding themselves stuck in poverty. The rich keep getting richer. Oppression is one of the main factors of diversity, and that gap between certain groups just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Overcoming diversity will take a lot of work. People must understand that we all are created equally. People will have to work together, share ideas, and be more open-minded. We must try to put a stop to diversity as well as racism. Racism is a global issue that can affect anyone's life, not just those within minority groups. Anyone can be the victim of racism. Day by day, racism affects and impacts individuals' lives. It relates to diversity because not everyone looks, likes, or practices the same things, so it leads to hatred as well as people discriminating others. It is said that the first signs of racism happened around the 13th and 14th centuries. It became known in the West around modern period. Racism is a huge issue because of the impact it leaves in people's lives. It produces pain, hate, and wrongdoing. In the 13th and 14th centuries, Jews were identified with the devil and with witchcraft. In the period of the Renaissance and Reformation, Europeans did not think of people of darker pigmentation as equal as they thought they were. During the 19th century, Europeans and Americans had black slaves. Even in today's society, whites suffer more racism than black do. From an article in dailymail.com, studies shows white American people believe they are more discriminated against than blacks. Whites believe the pendulum has now swung beyond equality in the direction of anti-white discrimination. So as you can see, racism can affect anyone. This is because people look different, sound different, do not have enough, have enough. Anything is a factor that can be related to racism. Most people believe that racism is only towards minority groups, when in fact anyone can be racist and suffer from racism. This is how racism goes hand to hand with oppression. Racial oppression is burdening a specific race with unjust or cruel restraints or impositions. Racial oppression may be social, systematic, institutionalized, or internalized. Understanding that oppression is unfair, unjust, and hurtful also helps inform that racism is the same way. Racism has gotten a lot better than it was in the past. More laws against discrimination are put in place, and people have learned to respect others that don't exactly look like them. But racism still exists, and we are hearing about it more and more again this year. An article from Time says racist incidents are up since Donald Trump's election. A few incidents have occurred in Maryland, New York, California, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, all involving racist, anti-Semitic vandalism and violence. Of the Southern Poverty Law Center told USA Today, since the election, we've seen a big uptick in incidents of vandalism, threats, intimidation, spurred by the rhetoric surrounding Mr. Trump's election. This is extremely sad because our leaders are supposed to make things better in our nation, not bring more pain to people. This makes me believe that racism will never go away. It is important to try to have a plan to stop racism. Some recommendations so that racism will stop is to try to change the way one thinks, to try to always see the good in others, show respect. If someone does not like something, they should keep it to oneself if it will result in their comments hurting someone else. Key is to think before speaking. Some strategies could be to get involved with one's community, talk to people and try to find out who the person being racist is and document everything so the authorities will take care of it. Set goals for yourself to try and change one's way of living. The way I would arrest racism is by being as open as possible and reasonable as possible. It is important to understand that others feel a lot more different about certain issues than I do. I would try to put out the facts of how much racism truly hurts people and also harms their lives. I have been there, and it truly feels horrible to feel judged and not as important as others make you feel. By being as open, honest, and reasonable, people will get a feel of where I'm coming from when talking about racism. This will benefit because people can try to put themselves in my shoes and have a sense of what it feels to be a victim of racism. Also, by not pointing fingers, because that way people I am addressing the issue to will not feel judged. Sometimes when we feel judged, we tend to fight back and defend ourselves. Creating a hostile-free environment is the key. Let's be the generation that stops racism. Racism stops with me. Will it stop with you? Thank you for listening to how important it is to stop racism. I would also like to thank all the references I used that provided good, valuable information for this presentation. Thank you.